PokerStatic.com. We bring you the interviews you want to hear. Now with your hosts, Bret Oliverio and Eric Bickel, the Poker Static Hot Seat.
What's up? Welcome to a brand new edition of the Poker Static Hot Seat. Bret Oliverio, Eric Bickel, and joining us tonight is Jude Duffy. You may know him as Oldjude. He's a mid to high stakes cash game pro and also an instructor on Lego Poker. Jude, what's happening?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing great. Congratulations. Thanks for being on the show. Jude is 22 years old. As Bret mentioned, he's an instructor on Lego Poker. And the first thing that jumped out at me, Jude, when I read about you, was your background in horse racing. You were like a jockey of some sort before you jumped into poker. Why don't you tell people how that all got started?
Sure, yeah, and thanks for having me on the show.
Of course.
My dad trained race horses from when I was a little kid, and there was always horses and ponies all around our place. I grew up on like a small farm, and so he got pretty good at that, and me and like 5 of my brothers and sisters became jockeys. I never actually took out my professional license, but I used to ride out race horses and ride work on them, which is like, the preparation for races, and I rode in pony races, which is like it's like race horses, but it's not on a racetrack. So I did that from when I was about 11 until I was about 17, and it was a nice experience, but it's kind of tough for a jockey unless you're really well connected. So that's the reason that I got out of that,
Right. And then it's my understanding then that you jumped into poker at some point. You were playing some live poker. Live sit and goes essentially. Is that how you got started with buddies? Maybe $5 a game, something like that.
Yeah. Same as I'd say most people. When I moved out of home when I was 17, and I moved in with a couple of friends, and they'd just learned, and we just were messing around. But like almost the first time we played, I just knew that I was going to become completely obsessed with the game, because I've always been like that about certain things, and this game just sort of had everything that I loved. I love gambling. I love challenging myself. I love strategy games, so it appealed to me a lot,
Right. And it's amazing because you jumped into this and you've become so wildly successful. As Bret mentioned, you're a coach on Lego. You've got these huge results, almost $1 million in like tournament winnings and cash game winnings online. But when you were a jockey and when you jumped into this, schooling obviously took a back seat, right? So I don't even believe you completed what we would consider high school, and you definitely have no college experience. Is that correct?
I have no formal education whatsoever. I was never in elementary school. I was never in high school. My whole family were homeschooled. My mom's an archaeologist, and my dad is sort of an entrepreneur. So they were kind of adventurous with their take on raising kids, and they decided to teach us themselves. So hopefully they made the right choice.
Certainly.
Now, what was that like, and how good of a job do they do? I mean, at what age were you reading, writing? I mean, obviously you're an intelligent guy, but when did you start picking up the normal academic things that we all learned at certain ages?
We all started reading at about 5 or 6, and my eldest sister went to high school and finished with like really good marks and did 4 years of psychology in the college in Dublin, and a few of my siblings sort of followed in her footsteps. 2 of my sisters also did the same thing, and one of my brothers. So the guys in the family, there's like 6 guys in my family, and they all sort of went the work route as opposed to the academic route. But it's we all seem to turn out pretty okay. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's not like, okay, so it's a little different than what you initially said, because you were homeschooled, so it wasn't like you were a dropout. I mean, you know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, but what was school like for you, like being homeschooled from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.? I mean, was it something where you were
like I said, I grew up on a farm, and we all had to pitch in around the place, and then like, you know, we basically, like, the kids just did whatever they wanted to do, you know what I mean? Like, my mom would always take us on, like, educational trips, and we could just wherever we wanted to go, she'd take us, and, you know, they'd set aside time for us throughout the day to study things and, you know, learn whatever was necessary, you know?
Right.
So
Okay, so you...
It wasn't really all planned out every day, you know? It was just kind of just like the way I play poker, you know, just did it whenever we felt like it, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, it certainly worked out for you. And so then, okay, so you have this little background in horse racing. You jump into poker with some buddies. You start playing like little sit and goes, tournaments, home games, that sort of thing. And then I know from reading your well, and by the way, I've always wanted to know this. How do you just have to have the balls to start your own well, or do a bunch of people ask you? How does one get a well on 2+2?
Well, when I made the open challenge to anyone holding an Irish passport about, you know, to when I threw out that heads up challenge, a lot of people, you know, sort of, you know, got a lot of sort of attention, and then I got a lot of PMs from 2+2 regulars basically saying, you know, please do well, this and that, you know what I mean? So I felt like it'd be something fun to do, and, you know, also I've learned a lot from 2+2, you know what I mean? It's been like my main source of strategy advice since I started playing, you know, so
I gotcha.
I felt like it'd be
for sure
cool to do something like that.
For sure, and it's been like a really informative well. You know, I've enjoyed reading it the last couple of days.
Thanks.
But I've always wondered, like, does this guy just have a huge ego? Like, anytime I read someone's well, I'm like, is his ego just out of control and think everybody is interested in him, or are people asking? So it makes sense. I mean, if you have, you know, like moderators and things of that nature telling you, hey, you should do one, that makes a lot of sense to me.
So it's safe to say if you or I just started a well, it would either we would just get clowned on, or, you know, it'd be done after like 2 or 3 posts.
Exactly. It'd be very short well. There wouldn't be a lot there.
Right.
So anyway, so you start playing these sit and goes and everything. You start to have some success, and then you borrowed, I don't know, $1,000 or so. And then was that for live play or online play? I can't remember.
At the time, I was sort of doing both. But when I first quit my job, I was a carpenter, by the way. When I first quit my job to try and play poker, and I thought I was ready, and I definitely wasn't ready at the time. And I had about €1,000, which is about $1,500 saved up. And I lost that pretty quickly. And it sort of didn't deter me. I was like, oh yeah, you know, I was still pretty bad. Like at the time, I was just able to beat sit and goes, and I wasn't able to beat cash online, but I still thought that I was really good because everybody I played live with was so bad. They made me look good. But I borrowed like another €1,000 from the bank and lost that pretty quickly. So I just said, okay, you know, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. So I just sort of went back to work and tried to put my head down and saved up money. And then I continued to play online, and I sort of made a few breakthroughs in the following few months. And the next time I quit my job, it worked out. And that was a few years ago. And, you know, things have gone well since then.
Now, were you all self-taught along that way? Was that, or did you join any of the training sites? Did you buy books? Did you have friends, or, you know, were you posting a ton of hands on 2+2 as you were learning? How did that process, you know, of getting better and going from like not a winning player in the cash games to crushing it? How did that occur?
Well, when for the first long time after I sort of turned pro, I had no idea about training sites or 2+2. I was completely unaware of them, and I didn't have any friends who I talked strategy with. I was just completely, you know, just learning just from playing, you know. And then I found out about 2+2 in like late 2008, and started posting hands there and started to see, like, you know, different points of view. And I think it was good for my game to sort of, you know, carve out my own kind of take on the game. Like I see players like Stork Delamork. You guys know him. He's an Icelandic player who absolutely crushes on full tilt. And you know, I assume the people who are from like these sort of isolated countries who don't get influenced, you know, by other people. It's kind of interesting when you see people like that come out and, you know, have their own real sort of unique kind of way of thinking about it. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of glad that I sort of you know, I didn't have too much influence starting off. You know what I mean? But yeah. But then when I started going on 2+2 a lot and using Lego poker and you know, Deuce's crack, you know, that definitely helped my game a lot too, you know. So it was
Now,
good both ways.
how big is poker in Ireland? I mean, here in the United States, it's pretty damn big. I mean, it's on TV all the time. You play it in any local casino. What's the scene like there in Ireland for you?
Well, I mean, poker is huge here as well. You know, I mean, it's not taken as seriously, I assume. Like, I don't know anybody who takes it seriously the way I do. Like, I've never met somebody who plays professionally in real life. But it's like the Irish Open is, you know, the biggest. It's the biggest event on European soil as far as I know. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of poker culture in Ireland. You know, that guy, what's his name? The bookmaker, Terry, whatever his name is. He was the one who sort of brought Hold'em back to the UK. He brought it back to Ireland back in the 80s. You know, so I feel like poker kind of for Europe kind of started in Ireland. You know.
So as you made your rise through the ranks, and you apparently did it fairly quickly. I mean, you're only 22 years old. Did you I guess it was through the cash games where you jumped up. Did you take a lot of shots and have to keep falling back, or how did that process go?
Well, actually, I didn't get into cash games until 2009, and I've been playing a few years at that point. I started out playing live, and sorry, just one sec. I started out playing live, and then when I started playing online, I was playing sit and goes, just sit and goes a lot, and I moved up pretty quickly in sit and goes, and I was playing like 500 and 1K sit and goes by 2008, and then I started playing MTTs when I got a decent bankroll. I just started playing all the big Sunday tournaments, and I just played like as many MTTs as I could.
Right.
And I just decided that I'd hold out for big cash and keep grinding them. And I eventually it was in the back of my mind to switch to cash games, but I decided that, you know, I was going pretty good in the MTTs and I was cashing a lot. And then I had a sick week it must have been February 09 in MTTs where in 1 week I finished first in the $100 rebuy and full tilt, $100 rebuy on stars, and second in the Sunday 500 on stars. So I made over 100K in 1 week in the MTTs, and then I said, okay, like I feel like that's as much, you know, run good as I'm going to have for a while. So I just shut out the MTTs and I just jumped straight into 2-4 cash, and I was pretty terrible. My post flop game like needed a lot of work.
Right.
When I started playing 2-4, but I picked it up pretty quickly. I never like dropped too much money. I just sort of broke even for about 50K hands, and then I just started winning and moving up, you know?
Right. Now,
So
were you focusing on, when you were just doing the sit and goes, were you playing heads up sit and goes?
No, it was pretty much all 6 max.
All 6 max sit and goes, okay. And then when you jumped into cash, did you jump in right away into, because I thought you were doing a lot of heads up. Was that 6 max to start or heads up?
I think, like, I only started playing heads up in late 09.
Okay.
So I was playing like all 6 max. For the first 250,000 hands I played were 6 max at least.
Right.
You know, so.
And it wasn't a lot of tables at a time. Like, I know you sort of take pride in you don't bum hunt and that sort of thing, but you also don't mass multi-table either, right? Yeah,
that's right. I've never really played more than 10 tables, and if I'm playing mid stakes, I'll usually play like 8 tables, and if I'm playing high stakes, I'll cut it down to 5 or 6. You know, so.
Well, that's still a decent amount. I mean, 8 to 10 tables. That's a decent amount for sure.
Now, let me ask you this.
I feel like it's not as many as a lot of people are playing, but you know, if I play more than 8 tables in games that are anyway tough, I just start to lose concentration and, you know, can't give my full attention. You know, so.
Right.
Now, somebody asked you in your well what your sort of aha moment was, and you said when you realized that you can turn bluff catchers into bluffs. That was a big one. Why don't you sort of elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, it was when I was reading the J-Man well. You know, Phil Galfond did a well, and he said that was an aha moment for him. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, you can actually do that. You know, he said that he was playing one time, and he had like, I think he had, it was like deep, the stacks were deep anyway, and his opponent made a really big bet on the river, and he had, I think, King 10 or something on a King high board. And so his opponent bet the river, and he said, so what do you think I should do? And Durr said, well, I think calling is better than folding. And J-Man said, yeah, I think so too. And Durr said, but I would shove. And J-Man was just like, oh my God, it just blew his mind. And I was like, yeah, that actually is crazy, because like, a lot of people think that your only option is to call a lot. It's to either call or fold in a lot of situations. And sometimes, it's just perfect to, raise and turn your hand into a bluff. You know what I mean? So, that's that's an example. If hope that example sort of suffices.
Well, and that's going to cost me a lot of money, because now I'm going to start shoving every river. That's hilarious.
Sure.
All right, so Jude, as you're moving up the ranks, and you did it fairly quickly, how many hands, how many buy-ins, what were the requirements for you as you decided to move up from 2-4 into the 5-10, and then I know that you've even taken a lot of shots at 25-50.
Yeah, well, the thing about bankroll management for me, it wasn't really an issue, because I came into cash games when I was like way overrolled, so I just sort of had to judge it on, whether or not I was beating the games I was in. You know what I mean? So, so I played 2-4 for, I don't know, it's probably about 150,000 hands, and then I started playing 3-6 and moving up and playing some 5-10 here and there, you know what I mean, and posting hands. And like I said, I found 5-10 pretty difficult to break into, but I eventually sort of got the hang of it,
What were some of the adjustments you had to make? Like, what makes a 5-10 game so much more difficult than like a 2-4 or 3-6 game for you?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a huge difference between 3-6 and 5-10. I think like the 5-10 players, they're just not going to sort of tilt off money, and they're not going to spew as much. And like, it just seems like in the 5-10 games lately, it's just like you cannot 3-bet light. You're just going to get 4-bet every single time. You know what I mean? So, I've had to adjust that. I feel like I'm beating the 5-10 games pretty good, but they're more stressful than playing 2-4 and 3-6.
Right. You have also said that continuation betting is much different in the 5-10 game as compared to games that are lower. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I started playing 5-10 and 10-20, I found that, like, I was c-betting just almost every time in a raised pot when I was playing 2-4 and 3-6, and that was working out okay, because people, they don't exploit it as well in those games. But at 5-10, they're just, I found I was just getting killed. I was getting check raised on flops, like, just so much, and I, like, because I was c-betting way too much, there was nothing I could really do about it, you know what I mean? So, so I had to readjust that, like, so. Yeah.
So do you care to say, like, what percentage of the time is a good percentage do you tell your students for c-betting?
I think my c-bet is somewhere around 70%, but it's situational, like, and it really depends on at what level you're playing, Plus, I've got a pretty high VPIP and PF4. Like, I think I play somewhere around, for 6-handed, I play somewhere around 27, 22. So, I can't really c-bet as much, right, because my ranges are just going to be weaker,
Now, you were early in your 20s, and you sort of grew up on a farm. I don't know what sort of means you came from, but you have $200,000 in your poker account. I mean, at any point, instead of jumping into the cash games, did you ever think about withdrawing maybe 100 of it and playing smaller, or just continue to grind? I mean, was there any thought of that, or did you just want to keep it in your poker account and try to increase your bankroll as much as possible?
Well, when you're 19 or whatever, and you're, you have no responsibilities, no obligations, you don't think like, oh, well, I'll take this money out and invest it and buy a house and, buy stocks in this company. You just think, fucking, what can I do with this money? Like, just gamble more and, see how much higher I can take it. You know what I mean? So, right. That was sort of my take on it. Like, I just wanted to see how high I could go. And before, and every time I moved up, I seemed to just, in time, I'd learn to beat the level that I was at. You know what I mean? And it's only in the last few months, actually, that I've started thinking about, like, I've withdrawn money and, I've got money in the bank now, and I'm thinking, what to do with it, like, you know what I mean, and what to invest in here and there, you know what I mean? Right. So, but for the first long time I was playing poker, I didn't even consider cashing out money or consider investing in anything else. I just wanted to see, I just wanted to use the money that I had to challenge myself to play bigger and bigger games and against tougher and tougher opponents,
Right. Now, is that due to the fact that you're just getting older and sort of more mature, or do you just have no desire to jump into the nosebleed games?
Well, I mean, like for a long time, when I started playing heads up, which was only in about late '09, I started playing heads up. It was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago. Um, I was playing anybody. Like I'd never really played much heads up, and I was playing anybody at 10-20 on full tilt, and I was playing some really good players, and they were beating the crap out of me for the first long time. But I felt like I didn't really care about throwing away the money because I just wanted to be recognized as like a great player, But to be honest, that's kind of gone away now. I sort of feel a bit more comfortable with what I am, and I'm like, I don't really care if people say, "Oh, well, Oldjude's afraid to jump into the 100, 200 games or whatever," because at the minute I'm just sort of like, I've nothing to prove, and I'm more in it for the money now than for the sort of recognition. You know what I mean?
Right. Does that affect like your whole philosophy on bum hunting? I always find that his kind of funny because I mean most people that were in this to play poker, we want to make some money. I mean, some of us want to play as a career, some of us want to play for fun, but at the end of the day, if we're all losing, by and large, we'd find another hobby or find something else to do, right? So,
yeah.
We want to make money. So what's wrong with me bum hunting? Why is that bad? Maybe I won't become the best player I can, but it'll make it a profitable venture for me.
See, when it comes to bum hunting, I've actually never chastised people for it. I've always thought that, I don't know what it's like to be in my 30s, married with kids, and, not have the option to play in really tough games and to pay money to get better. You know what I mean? So how can I criticize somebody who's doing that? You know what I mean? Some people have no option but to game select, a lot more rigidly than I do. And I feel like, I'm just lucky enough that I'm young enough that I don't have any obligations and I can play tougher and tougher games and become a better and better player. You know what I mean? Whereas people who are bum hunting a lot, you know what I mean? As long as their ethics aren't bad, I think there's nothing wrong with, game selecting stringently. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I basically, I just feel like it's not for me. You know what I mean? I'll play, I won't go and sit with Durr 200, 400, but I'll never really quit a six max game. I'll never quit a six max game for fish or anything like that. I mean, so
right.
I don't know.
Right.
And like I said, I don't mind people who do, as long as their ethics are okay. Like people who just like insta sit out as soon as the fish does. I think that's pretty shitty. But like I say, game selecting is fine by me.
Right. You've said before, and I think you said this on your well though, that one of the fruits of this is that you've gotten to sort of come up with your own creative lines. Can you give us an example of or two of maybe a way that you'll play maybe what a somewhat standard hand differently and why you came up with a different line?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what example I could give you. I think I definitely play a little bit laggier than I'd say most regulars. And I know everybody, that might sound like I'm being, I'm bragging because, everyone wants to be the crazy lag, but I do play probably looser stats. And I feel like I try out I'm always like trying out different stuff, you know what I mean? And especially when deep, that's where you can really take some, really quirky lines. You know what I mean? When you're playing 100 big blinds deep, there's not really a whole lot you can do. But like, I do, when I'm playing 200 big blinds deep, I'll 5-bet bluff like a pretty decent amount because there's just really good spots to do that. And I wouldn't say a lot of people are 5-bet bluffing, you know what I mean? So I'm talking about pre-flop, by the way.
Right.
And that's one thing. And stuff like I'll do a lot of cold 4-bet bluffing out of the small blind or out of the blinds when I'm playing deep as well. You know what I mean? That's something that gets plenty of respect. You know what I mean? Of course, people hearing this, I'm gonna have to readjust, but
Now, how do you handle like tilt control? Most of the guys that we've gotten to know, the Phil Galfons of the world, the Cole Souths, not to name drop or anything, but these are people that we've interviewed through the years and we've gotten to know and worked with Phil a little bit. They have amazing tilt control. Is that something that you consider a strength? I mean, Phil might lose a $500,000 pot, he's told us before, and he might just barely, click his mouse a little harder than before. Whereas some of us will smash our monitors. We just can't handle it.
I do get a bit upset sometimes when I go on like a really horrendous losing streak. Like right now, I'm on an over $100,000 downswing, and I don't think it affects my play at all. Like I get a bit upset when a session's over and I've just run like shit, but I don't really I don't really let it bother me, you know what I mean, when I'm actually playing. And if I do let it bother me, I'm really aware of it, and I'll just quit, you know what I mean? So I definitely think that is a strength of mine to, you know, to recognize when I'm not playing my A game from tilt, and I'll just get out of it, you know.
So right now you're in the middle of a 100K downswing. Doesn't that rock your confidence? I mean, I know I know me, I would just think, that's it, the game's better than me. I'm done, ski. I had my run. How do you how do you maintain your confidence?
I think it's just from experience I can recognize that I'm like there's this one guy who I'm playing lately. He's sitting with me a lot. I've played him probably about 6,000 or 7,000 hands with him on iPoker, and he's playing me 25-50 heads up. And I swear, in my opinion, he's just been running like sick good against me. Actually, but you know, I've gone over hands and I've repeatedly looked over. He's not even that much up in EV on me. I think about 25K or something. He's running above EV, but he's up like over 90K on me. So he's sort of been the root of my downswing, if you like. Right. And I think this other high stakes player, Insider. He's a German player. He's a coach, and he's like really awesome player. And he plays like tons of heads up, no limit and PLO, and he's played him as well. And he feels like this guy plays really weird, but he feels like he's beating him as well. And we're both down a ton of money to him. But like, you know, as long as I feel like I'm better than him, I'll just keep playing him until I go broke. You know what I mean? So it is kind of, it's not too great for the confidence to be down a ton of money to somebody who plays really weird, because you get the feeling that they might be owning you. But you know, I feel like my head is sort of on straight enough that, you know, I'm still beating the games, and I'm not. It's not rocked my confidence too much, you know, being on this downswing, you know.
Huh. So you're sort of right now. You're sort of obsessed with, you know, getting this guy, either getting your money back or just proving yourself that you're a better player, and the results will come.
Yeah, that's basically it. You know, I feel like, you know, like my graphs have always been like jagged peaks. They've never been like straight, you know, upward, you know, lines. You know what I mean? So I feel like, you know, I'm on a really horrible downswing right now, and it's just a matter of time before it turns around, and I'm just gonna rape this guy. I'm just gonna take every penny he has. You know what I mean?
Nice.
That's hilarious. Can you talk a little bit about your match with Isildur, who we think is Isildur, and how that came about? And maybe there's another kind of a name player or two that you've had some sort of epic matches with, but the Isildur one I find to be interesting.
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't know it was him at the time when he first sat with me, but he was playing like really laggy. He joined me at 25-50, and he kept pushing to play higher, but at the time I wasn't like rolled. I'm still not really comfortable playing 50-100 because, you know, a downswing a really bad downswing might break. So anyway, I was playing 25-50 with him, and I thought he was like too laggy, and I felt like I could just sort of wait him out and take his money. And then afterwards I went on 2+2 and said that I was playing this guy who was, you know, his name was the Italian style on iPoker, and a few people were like, "Oh my God, you realize that is Isildur?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know that." But he came back, and I kept playing him because basically I felt like, you know, I was kind of beating him. I was kind of plus EV in the game, but if I wasn't, it was going to be a good learning experience, you know.
Right.
And I don't know. I played I played a good few sessions with him, and I haven't seen him around for a while. But he, you know, it was really, really interesting to play against somebody like that. You know, he took a lot of. He just had a really unique style, you know, and it was really cool to play against him. So,
the way you described it in your well was, at first you seemed to sort of own him, and then he wanted to up the stakes, as you said, and then he just started going crazy, 3-betting and 4-betting every flop. Was he simply on tilt, or was he pushing you, and was he aware of what he was doing?
I think it was kind of like he seemed to be just like a complete maniac, but there was a lot of method to his madness, you know. I mean, you guys have probably railed the matches with him and Durr as well, and he just seemed to be 3-betting every time and just getting it in super light. But like, you know, he killed Durr. Like, you know, I mean, you know, obviously he ran good against him too, but you know, taking $5 million off him is no mean feat, you know what I mean? So I just think he plays like really super lag, but there's a ton of method to his madness, you know.
Now, would you say he's one of the best heads-up no-limit hold'em players in the world? Because a lot of these top players, they really don't want to play him in no-limit hold'em heads-up. I mean, obviously they want to play him in PLO.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that he's definitely among the top no limit heads up players. You know.
Who else have you played? Who are some of the name guys that you've run into, and at what stakes?
I've played with Sauce, who was like probably I think his style matched up like the best for him against me of anybody I've played. He just destroyed me. I played a ton of hands with him, and I played with Da Evil's Foxwood Fiend. I played with Lucky Chewy. I played with Wheel on Tilt. I played with just a ton of the high stakes regulars and full tilt. I was playing like with pretty much anybody for a few months on full tilt. You know,
Right.
I've also had a ton of matches with I Win Flips. T Corbett on 2+2, who's like a really good heads up player. So we had some pretty interesting matches there, 10, 20, 25, 50. So yeah, but I think Sauce was like just like a really insane good player. You know.
Is there a player up there in those nosebleed games that you really, really respect their style, and maybe you go through their hand histories or whatever it is, and you try to pick up things from them, or do you try to take something from all of them?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I play a match against somebody good, I'll just try and absorb as much information as I can, and just see whatever. It's never going to be. When two good players play each other, it's always going to be one of them's going to know a lot that the other one knows, and the other one's going to know a lot that the other one doesn't know. Sorry, they're basically they're going to have a ton of information that the other one doesn't have. So there's always something to be learned. You know what I mean? So I just try and learn as much as I can from players whenever I play them. You know what I mean?
Now, does it tilt when you're on a big downswing, like $100,000 downswing, like that you're in right now? Like, do you ever refer back to your coaching? Like, maybe you're giving away too many secrets because, I mean, obviously you're doing one-on-one coaching, I believe, at $400 an hour, but you also have Lego poker. Does it ever cross your mind, you know what, I need to get out of this, focus on my game, I'm giving too much away?
Not particularly, because I think a lot of the people who I play with probably don't watch my videos. And on top of that, I don't see really Notzinho watching a 400 no limit video. You know what I mean? I mean, not that I play with him very much, but basically the 10, 20, and 25, 50 regulars probably don't watch those videos very much. And the games that I play in where people probably would watch the videos, I think I'm crushing them pretty good right now. The 3, 6, and 5, 10 games. So I think I'm not really giving away so much information that it's really hindering my game. You know what I mean? I think it's plus EV to be coaching right now.
Now, when you charge $400, a lesson, what level of player would that be most ideal for? I mean, if a guy's playing the micros, it probably wouldn't be worth it for him. I don't know. Maybe it would
Yeah.
be. What's the level of player that you're typically coaching?
I think for 3, 6, and 5, 10 players, it's probably best.
Right.
They can easily afford it. I'd say anybody who's beaten those games and wants to move up. And I think that I'd definitely be one of the better regs in those games. So I could help out a player who's trying to move up from the.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see from your students?
Well, I mean, I specialize in sort of red line coaching because I've got non-showdown winnings, and it seems like most regulars make their money from their blue line, their showdown winnings. So, I see players, they're not barreling enough. They're not. I mean, maybe I do it too much, but I see a lot of players, they're not barreling enough, and they're not firing the third barrel enough, and it's they're not squeezing enough for pre-flop. You know what I mean? And I think that comes from sort of being under-rolled, I think, you know what I mean, or being too worried about money, like, you know what I mean? For some reason, since I started playing, I've never really cared much about the money side of it, and that's been a huge help to me, you know what I mean? I've sort of been like, if I lose my whole roll, I just think, oh, well, I get it back, you know what I mean? So that's like a huge help to somebody because when you're fearless with money, you can just sort of, you can take stupid risks, and, the first tons of hands I posted on 2+2, I just got flamed for them because people were saying they were such spew, and they were. But that's really good to spew a bit with different things. Like, it really helps, it opens up your game. You know what I mean? So that's what I help people mostly is, people who haven't really opened up the game to play, pick up on spots where if you just sort of, if you just play a little bit laggier, you'll have a much higher win rate.
Does going broke, does that worry you right now? I mean, you're playing so big. Is that something that crosses your mind, or you just figure, you know what, if it happens, I can borrow money and run it back up?
Yeah, it concerns me, I suppose. It concerns me because I won't, like, this guy who I'm playing right now, I won't stop playing him. Like, I might stop playing him, just before I go broke, but I could potentially lose, like, a lot of money to him, and he might be owning me. You know what I mean? I'm not 100% sure yet. So, yeah, that's definitely a concern, you know what I mean? But I feel like my judgment has always been pretty decent on, when to stop, you know what I mean? So,
now you're playing,
sort of has to...
You're playing mostly on iPoker, right? Do you ever worry about the security of the site? With all of the issues going on with some of these sites out there, like UB, AP, and maybe even Cake recently. Do you ever worry about that? Maybe the guy's maybe he's got something that you don't have.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to just trust that it's that you're not getting super used.
Right.
What choice do you have?
Gotcha.
Right, no doubt. Well, listen, how can people get in touch with you? Are you still taking new students, or one-on-one coaching? Are you still signing people up for that, or are you referring people to Lego? How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn some poker?
If you just go to my profile on Lego Poker, and there, people can get in touch with me there, or private message me on 2+2. I'm known as just Oldjude everywhere. So. It's pretty simple to get in touch with me. And it's $400 an hour for coaching, So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, listen, Oldjude, Jude Duffy, we appreciate you joining us, and good luck on your heads-up matches that are coming up. Thanks for coming on the show.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Take care. Really appreciate it.
All right, this is
okay, guys. Thanks.
Hot Seat. We will see you guys next week.